Boxing King, media in association with Boxer Eddie Hearn in almost 60 odd days. You missed the game. It's been nearly 60 days since your last show.
Yeah, I think sometimes a break is good. I think what this break has enabled us to do is really focus on individual shows. When you're doing a show a week in different country every week, you're never really getting the opportunity to focus. And what we've done is we've focused hard on February the 4th here at the Garden, which will be a sellout. February the 18th, Wood Lara, which is a tremendous fight, will be a sellout as well. But we're about to announce our new slate, and that comes really around the wraparound announcement with Anthony Joshua, which will come, looks like on Monday.
I was going to ask you further down the line, but that's good. We'll jump back into that. I want to start off with Alicia Baumgardner. Ellen Makhaled is her opponent. I think we had some back and forth with her a few months ago where she kind of retired because she wasn't happy. She wasn't given enough notice. She been given enough notice this time?
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you, it's a great fight. Makhaled is very tough. She had a very good fight with Delphine Persoon last time out. The WBA ordered us to go down the rankings to find the opponent. She was, I think, number 3. She accepted the fight, and this is a very, very tough fight. Baumgardner comes in full of confidence, but Makhaled's super tough. It'll be a war because Alicia always comes, to give everything, and it's an amazing story, Alicia Baumgardner. You talk about how people's lives change in boxing, and this is an example to everyone where basically she was just like DMing me, saying, "Please, I know you're doing women's boxing. Any opportunity you've got, I believe I can become world champion." We were looking for an opponent for Terry Harper. I sent Alicia Baumgardner and a few names to Steffi. Steffi wanted a real fight, chose Alicia Baumgardner. Alicia Baumgardner becomes world champion, defends it, gets an opportunity to fight Michaela Meyer for a load of money, beats her to becomes unified, and now she's got a chance to be undisputed at the Garden out of nowhere. You understand? The sliding doors path of boxing is incredible. If that opportunity doesn't come, all of a sudden, she may have retired. She may have thought, there's no opportunities for me here. And it's incredible to think that, she's on the verge of becoming undisputed champion and a massive star in the sport at the weekend.
I didn't know that. That's pretty remarkable, and I like the fact that she's still pretty grounded. I spoke to her a bit ago, and she just seems focused. No party, no chilling. She just wants to fight and keep winning belts.
Yeah, dedicated to the sport, and that's what when you're representing those people, the ones that are dedicated, the ones that you're seeing making the sacrifices, are the ones that motivate you to do more for. And she's one of them. She works hard in Detroit. She has a dream to be undisputed champion, and that could come true for her at Madison Square Garden at the weekend.
Top of the bill, you're working with Amanda Serrano again. I'm just going to quickly touch on the relationship with Jake Paul. Is the relationship still there? Because last I heard you guys were suing each other for 100 million.
The numbers are always a little bit quirky, but the court case is ongoing. But we still work together. I mean, we all have a duty to deliver for our fighters, and we can't let our disputes get in the way of that. So, I don't think we have a great relationship. I like what he's doing. I think he's good for the sport of boxing. We got this deal done, and it's a great opportunity for Amanda Serrano to become undisputed. For all her achievements in the sport, 7-division world champion, she's never got an opportunity to accumulate all the belts. And this is what I keep saying about women's boxing. As a fan, don't we want to see the best in a division? And it's so motivating to see the champions fight the champions, And you look at it now, and you look at, Ebony Bridges. Right? I look at that, I go, right, we also have Nina Hughes fighting Shannon Courtney. The winners fight the winners. That's a unified championship. Then you've got Thorsland and you've got Luna. They're going to fight, or we'll get them to fight, and we get one champion. Because what we need to know in boxing is who is the best in the division. And the way you do that is by creating undisputed champions. Now, through Saturday night, you're going to have an undisputed champion at 126, an undisputed champion at 130, an undisputed champion at 135, 140, 147, 154 hopefully soon if Natasha Jonas fights Terry Harper, 160 Clarissa Shields, 168 Franchot. That's what we want, and hopefully we can achieve that in men's boxing. Easier said than done.
Definitely. And we're talking of I was going to ask you there, Amanda. Amanda. So Amanda Serrano, obviously the aim is for her to fight Katie Taylor at Croke Park, but I'm hearing a lot of stuff online recently where it said it's too expensive to run a show there. Obviously I know bits and bats about it, but just for the fans who don't understand, could you explain to them what the logistics of running a show there?
The fight won't take place at Croke Park. We've done everything we can to do that. Ultimately and bizarrely, the cost of doing a show at Croke Park is 3 times more than Wembley. Right? And it's like, and people will say on social, pay the money, Hearn. It's like, no. The fighters want this much money. If we do it at Croke Park, even with a 70,000 sellout, with the cost that they want to charge, it's not possible to give the fighters what they deserve. So we will go to an arena in Ireland if we make Taylor Serrano, and if Serrano comes through on Saturday night. Because one thing that I promised is that we'll be in Ireland for Katie Taylor's next fight, and that will happen. So there's a lot to be resolved, but hopefully, and listen, we represent Cruz, so we're hoping for the upset in a way on Saturday night. But yeah, you're very likely to see that fight if she comes through. It will be in Ireland, but it won't be at Croke Park.
Is there one specific element that costs outweighs all the costs? Because obviously you have arena fees and staff, etc.
It's the rental, it's the covering of the pitch, the relaying of the pitch, the security, the police. There's a lot of costs that are outside of the control of Croke Park, but there's a lot of costs that aren't. And I expected, when you talk about government help or support, people think that we shouldn't be asking for that. If the government, and I'm not having a pop at the Irish government, but if the government are supporting sporting events, which they do, how can you not support an event that will quite simply be one of the greatest events in the history of Irish sport? So it was disappointing. But listen, the plan for us is keep those conversations going, fight in May in Ireland, and then in September we can look at Croke Park.
Interesting. And then I spoke to Richardson Hitchins, who was fighting on the undercard, another one of your young American prospects you've signed up. I asked him why he signed with you, and the key thing he picked up was activity, which unfortunately a lot of US fighters seem to be lacking right now. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, I think that, I was just talking to another fighter about signing, and that's the key, really. I think a lot of these fighters are getting out once a year, twice a year. As a young fighter, you just can't develop like that. Richardson Hitchins boxed in November, now he's boxing in February. And I want him, if he wins on Saturday night, to fight Montana Love. It's a juicy build-up. They can't stand each other. And I think it's a tremendous fight. And, I like... I'm at the stage now where I like to be involved with journeys. Do you know what I'm saying? With people like... When I went down to the Cops and Kids Club in Flatbush the other day, I'm like, speaking to Richardson Hitchins, and he's saying to me, basically, I watched Floyd Mayweather and I wanted to start boxing, but I didn't have any money. And I couldn't go to a local boxing club because I couldn't afford it. Right? He said, so I Googled free boxing clubs, and I found this place here. And I had to travel a couple of boroughs on a bus to get here, but I could go for free. You've got to be a cold person to not listen to that story and go, fuck, how good is that story? How important are those clubs and those facilities? And as I become a little bit older and as I become a little bit softer, I'm going to be spending more time trying to push boxing in the community, trying to build those clubs in different communities. And I can't do it in every borough or every town or every city, but I feel that in our country, we should be having clubs like that and facilities like that in every area that needs it. In every town, every city would be great, but particularly in areas that need it. You don't realise, when you walk into those places and you see the kids, fuck, if they didn't have that club, where would they be? And we have such a massive problem at the moment in the UK with kids that are just fucking lost on the phones, on social media. They're being infiltrated with negativity. They're not playing sport. They're not socialising. They're not being stimulated, through physical activity, mental activity, learning. And I'm going to really make a push this year. I'm going to probably bore people with it, but I'm just so passionate about what those places do. And it still shocks me that those clubs are run by volunteers who don't get paid. You know how difficult it is those clubs are open sometimes every night. You as an individual have to be willing to give your time from 5 till 8 every night for free to coach kids in the community. They're the real heroes of boxing, And I think, as a parent, I think the young generation, I think we have a major problem on our hands if we don't do something.
I agree with you. So I'm going to quickly speak to you about a couple of other things. One of the things over the last couple of months, a lot of people have been saying, mainly people in boxing, not fans, that they feel that Frank Warren may have overtook you with regards to being the best promoter in the UK. You must have seen them comments from some boxing people. What do you think to that?
I think Frank Warren's a very good promoter. I feel like everybody's come out firing in 2023. I think we needed to. And I think if you look at the opening of the year, you had Eubank against Liam Smith, big event. you had Beterbiev against Yard, and you got Wood against Lara. And I think all three of us have come out with strong events. We're going to have, obviously, AJ on April the 1st. We're going to have Callum Smith on March the 11th. We're going to have Next Gen at the end of March. We're going to have Joe Caldina against Rakimov for a world title. We're going to have Katie Taylor against Amanda Serrano too, probably in a massive event. I mean, I think that I'm happy to be compared and have competition with others. For me, it's not something that you kind of make a decision on based on 2 months. It's something that you make a decision on based on 10 years or 5 years. And I feel like what we've done in the last 2, 5, 10 years has been incredible in British boxing. I feel like the competition is there, which is great. But we're up for the challenge. You know, I think we do need to do better in the UK as well. I think we've been a little bit unlucky. You know, we lost Benn Wbc, which would have been the biggest fight of 2022. Would have put us in a great position. But we come back in 2023 firing, particularly with Anthony Joshua. And I'm excited for the year. So, no, Frank's a good promoter. I don't think... I watched the show the other night. You know, I saw all the undercard. I think I have my own opinions on who the best promoter is in the world, but he's stood the test of time. And now, you know, as Francis and Georgie, we do a lot of business with. You know, and I actually think, quite funnily, we're going to do fights together. You know, we've done. Obviously, there's conversations with. When we did the Parker Ryder fight, you got Joyce Zhang coming up. Boatsy Yard for me is a natural fight that should take place, and I feel like our move to DAZN has kind of opened the floodgates to doing more fights, because there isn't the Sky BT kind of, we just don't do that. So yeah, it'd be interesting.
Exciting times. You mentioned Anthony Joshua there. Before we talk about the potential opponent, I just want to mention a comment that you said in the interview with Coogan the other day. I think you said specifically he took a small team with him. Is that on the back end of a lot of the comments from experienced people in boxing been saying he's got too many yes men? I'm quoting that, saying there's too many people in his camp. Is that why you said that, or is it any other reason?
Really, I just think that he had a time frame to go to training camp and he just went. You know, I don't think he was thinking about how many have I got, or what. He just took the people that he felt he needed to take. Honestly, I'm so excited for this stage in AJ's career, because I find it bizarre that people want to write him off for the run of fights that he's had. And when you talk about Jermaine Franklin, which is the front runner for this fight, on one hand, AJ's finished, apparently, no good anymore, but he'll knock out Jermaine Franklin easy. Then on the other hand, you think that Jermaine Franklin beat Dillian Whyte by a couple of rounds, yet it's a bad fight for Anthony Joshua. Like, this is a really, really good, competitive, dangerous fight for AJ to come back to. Of course, you saw him after the Usyk fight. Mentally, he's had to rebuild. He's got a new training team. But for me, I'm loving what I'm seeing. I'm loving what I'm hearing. And also, I love the fact that he's out there. You don't understand that microscopic world that AJ lives in the UK. Can't go out, can't go for a coffee. Always gives his time to everybody. Going down the motorway, getting followed by 10 cars. Like, it's just... And over there, I think he's free, and I think he's enjoying himself. I think, he won't be being drained by that responsibility, really, as a role model, which he's taken very seriously. And I'm excited, and I really couldn't give a fuck what people think when it comes to Anthony Joshua, because it's something I feel very passionate about. He's a friend of mine. I respect him greatly. He's changed the face of British boxing. He's fought everybody he's been asked to fight. So... yeah, and I believe he's going to become world heavyweight champion again. And when he does, it's going to be fucking so sweet.
Nicely put. Just want to speak to you about the boxing board chairman, Rob Smith. There was a reluctance from the board to do any interviews or talk about the whole Conor Benn situation. But why has it changed over the last couple of weeks? I've seen a lot of interviews.
Yeah. I'll tell you something now. The British Boxing Board of Control got too much to say. Let me tell you this. Who got all the blame for the Conor Benn situation? Obviously, away from Conor Benn. Me. Why is no one saying to the British Boxing Board of Control, why did it take you 5 weeks or whatever it was to decide to not sanction this fight? Because the only one that's getting blamed is me. In this situation, the first thing that you do, the board had all the test results the same time as us. So the first thing you do is you give it to the governing body and you say, here you go, you need to deal with this. What are you going to do? 5 weeks they sat on that. Yes, they requested information, and it was a difficult decision with them. But now Robert Smith wants to come out and say, it's disgusting, we're not getting any information. Yeah, well, if you would have actually made a decision sooner, we wouldn't have got the blame. We wouldn't have lost £1 million waiting because you pulled it or decided not to sanction it 3 weeks out. And people will say, Eddie, you should have cancelled the fight. Contractually, I can't until the British Boxing Board of Control make their decision. So why aren't people saying to Robert Smith, why did you take 5 weeks to decide that after Conor Benn's failed tests, you would not sanction this fight? And what they will say is, oh, well, we were waiting on information. I'll tell you something now. We'll see what happens with the British Boxing Board of Control because they've got a lot to say about the UKAD situation. They have no ruling over the WBC and Nevada situation. They have their own governing body that's there for drug testing, which is UKAD. Conor Benn passed every single test. And you know what? When they cancelled the fight, they sent Bauza on Conor Benn again for another test, which he passed. So when Conor Benn gets cleared, let's see what the British Boxing Board of Control do then. Because I'm sick and tired of hearing the British, who I respect greatly, and they always like to, and I spoke to Gareth Davis the other day. He put a comment out saying, the promoters have not been cooperating. We haven't been asked to cooperate on one thing on Conor Benn. The people dealing with this investigation are the people who did the test and the governing body that oversee that testing, not the British Boxing Board of Control. If they want to do their own hearing, no problem. But these people will do their hearing first, they will make their findings, and then we will provide the information to the British Boxing Board of Control. But someone in the media, rather than just blame me all the time, needs to say, Matchroom were waiting on your decision on sanctioning the event. Why did you take 5 weeks? Because if they would have decided, when they received those test results, that they would not sanction the fight, we will never be in this situation. So all those costs that were incurred will come to that.
And just on that, the reasoning behind what the newspaper report suggested was a large consumption of eggs and Wardler's handling of the testing. Are you able to talk about any of that?
I haven't been involved in any of the hearing at all. That's between Conor, the WBC and Bauza. So I don't know what the official hearing is. I've seen so much that took place during this testing process, which I'd love to comment on, but I can't. But, I mean, a lot of this information I get, I'm hearing through the media. So someone's telling someone. I mean, I saw today, WBC are set to announce today. I have no idea. I've not been told they're announcing today. But Rob Tebbett said they were. It's mad. But, it's there's a lot of people with serious agendas. That's exactly the word I wanted in boxing.
And just two quick ones. 2 fighters are free of contract. Billy Joe Saunders, Edgar Berlanga. Any interest from you signing both of them?
Yeah, I mean, we have a fight left with Billy Joe, but I spoke to him and I was happy for him to look elsewhere. We're going to have a meet up next week, and we'll see what happens. I think that could be a good fight. Billy Joe Saunders against Edgar Berlanga. Funnily enough, I just met with Edgar Berlanga 5 minutes ago. Great man, great following, great fighter, really exciting. And I think if you can build him up and he can prove his worth, Canelo Alvarez against Edgar Berlanga is a massive fight. Mexico against Puerto Rico, there's big fights for him in the division, and we'll see. Everybody's trying to sign Edgar Berlanga, so I just don't know. But I feel like Billy Joe Saunders has a lot to give in the sport still, and I'd love to see him back in the ring.
Did you see his recent thing on Instagram with the rival promoter?
Yeah.
Last question, what do you think of the slap sport that Dana Whyte's introduced, getting a lot of criticism online?
I think Dana Whyte's obviously, there's been a lot happening for him lately. I never really like to criticise anything on a business level that Dana does, because I think he runs a great business for the UFC. I don't like the slap league. I feel like boxing is different. Like what you're taught in boxing and what it gives you as an individual, the slap league kind of goes against all of that. It's a free shot, unprotected and undefended to the brain. And my worry is more for, we talked about earlier, about the next generation, the future generation. Kids are watching that, thinking that's acceptable. How long before you've got the playground doing the same thing? Receiving blows to the head is a very dangerous game, and it's not the art of boxing. The first thing you're taught is how to defend yourself, and you're not doing that in a slap league. I mean, let's just break it down what it is. You're standing there waiting to get slapped round the face with extreme force, with a clean shot, undefended. So I have to be honest and say I really don't like it.
On that note, Eddie, and as always, appreciate your time. Thank you very much.